Hi and welcome back to Knitting with Betty. I am Betty and today I'm going to be telling you all about the fabulous time I had on my knitting retreat. So let's get into it. So I went on a knitting retreat, my first ever, 2 weeks ago now. Gosh, it's flown by quickly. And what can I say but oh my god, it was fantastic. I'm absolutely exhausted by it though, so that's why this video is a little bit late. So firstly, apologies for that. Yeah, I think I worked out it's the first time that I've properly sort of socialised since before the pandemic. So I wasn't really used to that amount of like 5 days of chatting and gossiping and knitting and all things like that. So yeah, I was exhausted when I got back, and it was only really 3 days when I think about it, but we crammed a lot in. But first, you may notice that I am wearing my finished Hayworth sweater, and isn't she fabulous? I just absolutely love this colour. It's so spring-like, and I've paired it with some purple trousers, which is again nice and spring-like. Although, because it's got that cashmere content in this, it's quite a warm jumper, so I might not last the whole way through this episode. I might have to change halfway through because I'm a little bit warm. We're having sort of quite thunderstormy weather here in the UK, so it's a bit humid at the moment, but we'll see how long that lasts. But anyway, yes, I managed to get those long sleeves. Not going to lie, they're not as long as I really would like. I'm hoping as I wear it, it might sort of relax a little bit. And you can see the sleeves are a little bit odd. I think one's better than the other. But yeah, that's basically where I didn't have enough yarn to like do a proper sort of full head to the sleeves. So it's a little bit not as puffy or wonderful as I'd like it. But yeah. Oh, and it's quite short. So you can see my belly if I'm not careful, so I'll try and sit up straight and hopefully you won't see any skin poking through. But yeah, I think it's an absolutely beautiful pattern. I really recommend this pattern. It's I'd say probably like an advanced beginner, so if you are a beginner you can absolutely have a go at this, but I'd say, you know, not your very first sweater, maybe do a plain sweater first and then try this pattern. But it's absolutely beautiful. I'll show you the back quickly. So it's got that little keyhole detail at the back. So I just sewed 2 little hook and eyes onto the back. And yeah, it's just a really cute little jumper. Ideally, again, it could be a little bit longer, but if I make it again, I'll make sure that I actually get a proper amount of yarn this time. But back to the retreat. So it was, I can reveal who it was now. It was the Springtime in the Lake District Susan Crawford knitting retreat. I know, right? She is, along with Sydney of Squid School, the goddess of vintage knitting. So as soon as I saw that she was doing a retreat in the UK, I signed up immediately, even though it's quite pricey, but I'll explain at the end why I think actually it was really, really good value for money. But as soon as I saw it, I signed up, knowing, you know, this is exactly up my street. I've never been to the Lake District before, never been on a knitting retreat before, so I went in with absolutely no expectations whatsoever. And oh my god, it was just the most fantastic, 5 days. So went up to the Lake District by train, my epic journey on the train, on the Monday. And it was quite traumatic, the train journey, really. I mean, the first leg of the journey was okay. I had a seat. The second leg of the journey was the hellish part. That was from Basingstoke to Manchester, and it was a really, really crowded train. I mean, I got on, I had to chuck someone out of my seat that I'd pre-booked, and I had nowhere to put my suitcase. And I'm always really sort of That's the word I'm looking for. Kind of paranoid when I've got luggage on a train, because what's to say someone won't just pick it up and roll it out of the train. So I had to wait to get a luggage spot until the next stop, but I got that in the end. Yeah, it was just a really long, I think that leg was like 3.5 hours. It was really stuffy in the train carriage. There was no air circulating through, and there were loads and loads of people. There were people that were standing because they couldn't get a seat. So yeah, that was a bit of a hellish leg of the journey, but I didn't have to use the train toilets, which was good. I did have a wee at Basingstoke station, and then when I got to the Lake District when I was at the accommodation, but yeah, so I was very glad I didn't have to use the toilets on the train. So I survived the journey, guys. But yeah, it was a long way, and I was absolutely exhausted by the time I got there. But the first evening was just sort of an introduction. So we all got settled in our accommodation and sort of met each other and tried to learn each other's names, that sort of thing. And then at 7:30 that evening, we had like a drinks reception. So we all had a lovely glass of Prosecco with some of Susan Crawford's homemade sloe gin in, which was very potent, and had supper together. And so it was a really nice way to sort of introduce us all to each other and get to know each other a little bit. Yeah, and I've made some great friends from this retreat because of it. So the first full day was the Tuesday, and the first day, let me just reverse my booklet. Oh yes, we had our stranded colourwork workshop. So Susan designed a project exclusively for the retreat, based on the Wordsworth poem about the daffodils. So that's the back here. So this is the stranded colourwork that we were learning, and it was just a really cute little design based on that Wordsworth daffodil poem. And this is my finished hat. So I did manage, well, I think I managed to finish it on the train home, so technically I kind of got it done within the retreat, but I did notice that I'd done the crown wrong, but I just left it. I didn't bother to unpick it. There should be a little bit more yellow. But yes, it's a little beanie hat, and there's lots of techniques that I've learned in this one. So the first being corrugated ribbing. Never done that before. So corrugated ribbing gives you this lovely 2-colour effect, and you knit with one colour and purl with the other colour. And it means that it's not as stretchy as like your traditional rib. So you have to make it a little bit bigger than you normally would for a hat. So I'm going to try it on. I tried it on and it is a little bit big because I went for the bigger size. It's like if I wore it as a beanie hat, I wouldn't be able to see. Yeah, I could do that, maybe. Oh, that's a good idea actually. So yes, that is my hat. And then the rest of it is all stranded colourwork. So Susan taught us how to hold it in 2 hands so that it's quicker when you're knitting along. So you do continental one side and normal English way the other side. So show the back too. Can you see the crown there? I'll take this off because it's so hot. Whew. So it's made from British wool, so it is a really warm hat as well as my cashmere jumper. But if you look at the inside, it is just as beautiful as the outside, and that is all down to Susan Clever teaching us how to cut in those floats beautifully. So the first day was a full day of workshop, and what else did we do on that day? Let me just refer back. Ah yes, we had a talk in the evening. So you probably will have heard of The Golden Fleece by Esther Rutter. Well, she was in the area and she came to give us a talk about her book, and have to admit, I hadn't read her book. I had heard of it, and my knitting teacher Millie is also a librarian, so she obviously has read this book and knew all about it. So I'd heard about it from her before. But yeah, she gave us this fantastic talk, brought in all of her knitting examples as well. So for those of you who perhaps haven't read it, basically she went around the country for about a year looking at the archives of different areas in the UK for knitting items, and then she, for each item, it was one a month, so she would research that item, the history of it, the stories behind it, and then knit it as well. So she brought along her knitted samples. I'll do YouTube magic slideshow of all of her images from that night. And then we obviously got to talk to her at the end and have our book signed and things like that. So it was a really lovely talk that she gave us. And I'm always fascinated by the history of knitted garments. And so it was really lovely to meet someone else who was just as enthusiastic about the history of things. So that was the first first day, sorry. And then second day, as luck would have it, Esther's father-in-law is the curator or head blokey at the Wordsworth Museum. So for those of you who don't know, Wordsworth, the poet, he came from Grasmere, and Grasmere is where we were staying at the accommodation. So on the Wednesday, we sort of had a leisurely morning. Oh no, we didn't. We did a steeking class on that morning. It wasn't leisurely. So again, steeking is a technique that I haven't done before. So we started our steeking work then, and then we walked down to Grasmere village, which was stunning. I suppose I haven't said actually that on the taxi ride from the train station Windermere to Grasmere to the accommodation, it was absolutely beautiful. I mean, we were so lucky in that we had the most amazing weather. It was sunny, but it was chilly, so you didn't get too hot. It was just absolutely beautiful, the surroundings, and you know, everyone beforehand had said that it was a stunning location, but you can't truly appreciate it until you actually get there. And driving from Windermere station to Grasmere, you go through all the little villages. We went through Windermere and Ambleside and then Grasmere, and I kid you not, buildings were like gingerbread cottages. They were so perfect. Every building was made out of the same stone, which was obviously the local stone that all the dry stone wallings in the fields are made of. So to me it looked like a Disney set. It was that perfect. It was that like clean and picturesque, and there were lambs in the fields because it's lambing season, and it was just so romantic. It was absolutely beautiful. So I definitely recommend going to the Lake District in the spring, especially if you can get good weather. But anyway, we walked down on the Wednesday to the Wordsworth Museum, taking in all the beautiful gambling lambs and rolling fields and beautiful sort of scenery of the fells. And we went to the Wordsworth Museum, and at the time the cottage that Wordsworth lived in was closed to the public because they were filming. So we weren't supposed to know this, but there was a famous actor there who I do know who it was, but I'm not allowed to tell you because we weren't supposed to know. So yeah, if you see like a not documentary, like a TV program on Wordsworth coming up for, you know, whichever streaming service, I was there. So we reckon that because it was Wordsworth Cottage, they were probably filming like a Wordsworth biopic or whatever. I don't know. But yes, so watch out for that in the future. But because the cottage was closed, we couldn't go in to see it. So they very generously opened up the archives to us. And so we saw like a first edition printed book of the Daffodils poem, and one of the group got to handle the book and read the poem to the group, which was really lovely, and it meant a lot to her, the person in the group. I think it was her mother's favourite poem. that was lovely. I'll shout out to Margaret. That was Margaret. And she was from America, and she actually was from an alpaca farm. So she brought us all a skein of her alpaca yarn, which was very kind. Do I have it here? I'll go and find it in a minute. But yeah, so she got to read this poem, and they also brought out some knitted items from the archives. So local to that area is the Dent glove making factory, and the history of the area has a lot to do with glove making. And there's a particular style, a little bit like in Scotland, the shanker, is that what they're called? The shanker gloves, that have quite distinct patterns on them, and each region has a different pattern specific to their region. And so we got to see a pair of gloves that were made in that time. I think there were about 3 pairs of gloves that had been donated to the archive, and the gauge was absolutely tiny. It was so tiny, but they were absolutely beautiful. And the funny thing is, Esther had knitted a pair of these gloves, and I think it took her quite a long time because the gauge was so fine, and it was quite a fiddly thing to knit in such a fine gauge as well. And she was quite heartened that in the archive someone had donated a half-finished pair of gloves, because obviously someone had got fed up with this fiddly pair of gloves that they were knitting, so that was quite sweet to look at. But there was also a knitted quilt, like a lap quilt, that belonged to Wordsworth, that his daughter had knitted him. So that was absolutely fascinating to have a look at, and it was fascinating to see where they'd stored it and displayed it. That one side was quite faded where the light had faded it, but if you lifted it up and looked at the underside, you could see the really vibrant colours that had been used, which was lovely to see. That, you know, almost 200 years ago, that they'd how they'd got these vibrant colours that was so beautiful. So yeah, that was a really special trip to the museum. And so if you are in the area, I really recommend that you go to the museum, even if you're not into Wordsworth or literary things like that. I'm not particularly that kind of person. I tend to go for more lighter subjects when I'm reading. But to see in context that poem with the beautiful scenery and the daffodils, I think they'd just finished the daffodils. I don't think they were over by the time that we came, but if school kids actually went to that scenery and experienced the beauty of it with the poem, I think they'd probably like studying it a lot more at school. So yeah, I recommend you go to that museum if you're ever in the Lake District. It's a wonderful place to go. So after our talk at the museum, we then went to a local hotel, the Daffodil, to have an afternoon tea, which was amazing. It was just absolutely jam-packed with cakes, so much so that we had to take some of them home because it was just too filling. And so after our afternoon tea, we went back to the accommodation and had a quiz evening, which was great fun. So it was quite a late night, but it was great fun, and it really sort of cemented our group. We were very lucky in that our group all got on. we actually all genuinely liked each other, which you never know when you're in a group situation like that, whether people are going to get on or not. But yeah, we all got on really well, and we've all sort of vowed to each other that we're going to meet up again in the future. So that was the Wednesday. And my team won the quiz. So then the Thursday, we had sort of a more relaxed morning. That was our actual relaxed morning, and did a little bit of knitting. Susan had brought along a pop-up shop, which was amazing. Literally all of her yarns were laid out for us, and we could just go in and take a look at all the different colours and choose what we wanted and write it on a list, and then you were given a bill at the end, which I spent a lot of money, guys. But yeah, it was great fun to have a play with all the yarns, and she also had a rail of all of her samples so you could try them on and see what you liked, which was great. So lots of people were playing dress up with those. Then, so after the morning, we went down into Grasmere again, and this time we went to Sarah Nelson's gingerbread museum. It's a museum, I don't know, gingerbread house. So it's Grasmere is famous for this gingerbread. I've never heard of it, but it's not your typical gingerbread. It's not like the hard stuff that you make houses out of. It's like a crumbly kind of version of it with like chunks of stem ginger, and it's absolutely yummy. Obviously a secret recipe, but they've been making this since like the 1700s, and it's, you know, a local delicacy, shall we say. But yeah, it was we had a talk from one of the staff that works there telling us all about the history of it, and then we had a little obviously we had a little taster, and we had a little wander around Grasmere and back up to the accommodation. So then I think we finished off steeking on that day, and it was time for our last evening. And that last evening, we all sort of made our last orders of the shop as it was being packed up, which was very sad. So I can show you what I got. So the first lot I got 3 of these. And this is 100% British wool from the Barn range, I think, and it's in colourway Jack-o'-lantern. So it is a glorious orange colour. So if you remember me saying that I needed an orange tweedy kind of yarn for my skeleton, what's it called? Boneyard sweater, I think it's called. I'll correct that if I haven't got that wrong. But yes, I needed the main orange colour, so I got this beautiful, beautiful yarn. I just love the colour. I'm hoping it's going to be picked up okay on my iPad here. So I got 3 of those. And then I also, this is Bloom worsted, and it is 100% blue faced Leicester in the shade Cranbrook. And this is a gorgeous, like, it's showing up quite pink in this, but it's like a raspberry sort of cranberry red. Maybe that's probably a better representation of the colour here. So this is worsted weight, or is it? Yeah, worsted weight. So I'm going to be making a skirt out of this. So this I'll use for the 4 Seasons skirt by Sydney. I still don't know how to say her surname, sorry Sydney. By Sydney from Squid School. I'm going to make a skirt out of that with this. So I got 6 of these. Beautiful, beautiful. And it's really soft being blue face Leicester. I also got this, which is going to be sent to me in a pale sort of buttermilk kind of yellow colour. I think the colour was called Eleanor. And that I just got on a whim. I don't really know what I'm going to make with it, but I just liked the colour. So on the first day I saw these next to the yellow ones, and I saw them together. I was like, I need those 2 yarns. They're beautiful. They go nicely together, but all equally you can make separate out of them. So that's what I got. I'll go and find. So this is the yarn that my friend, who was actually my roommate as well, Margaret, gave us. So she brought some spring colours along. I think there was a turquoise one and a sort of spring greeny colour, which was more of an apple green than this kind of sagey green. But this is the company if you want to look them up, LGF Suris. And she used to own alpacas. I don't think she owns them anymore, and obviously got their beautiful yarn. So yeah, I don't know, I might make a shawl out of this because it's so soft and beautiful. What is it? I think, is it 4 ply? Fingering weight 3 ply, there you go. So yeah, that was very kind of her to give us one of these each. So yeah, I'll make something out of that in the future. I think that's everything. Oh no, I got a book. So I'm back. So my battery died when I went to go and get the book, and also I changed because it was a little bit hot. But I'm back now, and interestingly, a thunderstorm has just started. So hopefully you won't hear that going on in the background. I'll try and edit it out if you do. Let me just get this camera up a little bit. Better. That's better. Right. So I also bought this book, The Vintage Shetland Project. Now this was quite an investment piece. I think I paid £38 for this, but as you can see, it is a great big book. So the first sort of half is the sort of history behind the Shetland archives, and each piece that Susan recreated sort of had a story behind it, so she did a little bit of research into those pieces. And then obviously in the other half you've got all the patterns of all the lovely knits. There's lots of beautiful patterns in there, so well worth the money, I think. And there's some really great things in there that I'm probably going to knit up. But on price, so I said at the beginning that the retreat was quite expensive, and for me it was, but I've since had it explained to me that the reason why these retreats are often quite expensive is one, everything's included, so you've got your accommodation, food, all your excursions, all your teaching, all materials were included in this. But also companies tend to treat them as like a once in a lifetime trip, so they go all out and you know, jam pack as much as they can into each of the retreats. So yes, they do appear quite expensive, but I think the Susan Crawford retreat was absolutely worth the money, and actually I think it was quite cheap for what we got. So Susan's daughter is actually a chef, and she was doing all the cooking for us with I think it was her husband and Susan's husband Gavin as well. So they were in the kitchen, and they did a fantastic job. They sort of cooked more kind of local dishes. So we had Cumberland sausage and mash, we had like a hot pot, which was a vegetarian dish, and we had chicken and leek pie, and what else did we have? I can't remember the last meal that we had. But everything was freshly cooked. We had a cooked breakfast every morning if you wanted to cook breakfast, or you could have porridge, or you could have like muesli with yoghurt and jam and things like that, so toast and jam. So the food was just amazing, and all of Susan's team were absolutely delightful. You couldn't have asked for a better team. They just, anything you wanted they'd get you. Nothing was too much trouble. And like with the yarns, if they didn't have the colour that you wanted, they would take down your order, and they're back in the studio sort of these past couple of weeks have been cooking up a new batch of yarns for us if they didn't have the particular colour that you wanted. So yes, they're quite expensive, these retreats, but I think they're absolutely worth it. And if again it's a once in a lifetime type thing for you, then absolutely go for it. It's worth every penny. Susan's is very cheap in that regards if you compare it with other companies that do these kind of retreats. But yeah, it was absolutely exhausting. So we are I came back on a Friday, and we are now, not the next Friday but the following Monday, so I've been back for like 10 days or so, and I'm still not back to normal, guys. And there were two Swedish ladies on the trip who one was just about to turn 80, and you know, I think they were fitter than I was. They weren't as tired as I was, I don't think. But yeah, I need a retreat to recover from my retreat, but I couldn't recommend it more highly. It was so much fun, and I met some really great people. So there were people from all around the world. So we had two ladies from Sweden, I think we had two from Canada, quite a few from America, and then there were 3 of us that were from the UK. So there was like a little group that I met, Marie, who was from Suffolk in the UK, and she's lovely. So I hopefully I'll meet up with her over the next few months, because she's a lot closer. But Steph and Karen from America, they were absolutely lovely. They had us in absolute stitches with their stories. You know, we laughed so much that week because of them, and couldn't have asked for better sort of retreat mates. So yeah, we were really lucky that everyone got on well, I think, because you never know with that kind of thing whether you're going to be thrown in with people that were a bit dodgy. But no, everyone was lovely, so we couldn't have asked for a better group of people. So if you are thinking of going on a retreat, definitely go for it. Or maybe if you've been on a retreat, why don't you let me know in the comments where you went. Some of the other girls had been on retreats before, sort of all over the world, a bit in America or in Canada. So if you've been on a retreat, I'd love to hear all about it in the comments. You know, help me choose my next retreat. I'd love to go abroad somewhere. I definitely want to go to Norway for Norwegian knitting, and the Swedish ladies that I met have said that if I'm ever in the area that I should go and see them, so definitely be inviting myself to go and see them. But yeah, so that was my retreat. So one thing I did forget to mention was the knit that I took on the train. So I did the poll on which knit I should make, and the knit I decided on was the 1940s sort of skater sweater that had like a little well, maybe I'll put a little picture up. But I love this yarn. This is the WI yarn that I've been using, and because it's Aran, this has knitted up so quickly. This took me like 2 weeks, I think, to do the front and the back, and like usually in a 4-ply sweater it would take me probably a good month to do. I just made a big hole in it. No, it's okay, I haven't. Usually it would take me about sort of a month in 4-ply to get this far, especially because of like the ribbing. That's always the most traumatic part, isn't it? But no, this has knitted up so quickly. So if you want to give the WI Aran Tweedy knit yarn a go for it, because it's so lovely. The only thing I would say is this has fluffed quite a bit, so as I'm knitting it like fluff has come off it. So if that's something that annoys you, something to bear in mind, but I think it should be okay. And once I've blocked it, hopefully all the fluff will have got rid of most of the fluff. I'm so tired, guys, I can't talk. Still after 10 days. Anyway, excuse me. Anyway, I cast this on the train, on the first train, and this is what I knitted all the way up to the Lake District. And I knitted this one on the way back, so I did have knitting all the way home. So that is it for this week. I will probably do another sort of catch up in a couple of weeks. I've got some other projects. It's a bank holiday in the UK this weekend, so I have cast on a new project. 2 new projects actually, and they're both crochet projects, so if anybody crochets out there, this one's for you, or the next one will be for you. But I also have some interview type episodes coming up, so make sure you check out the playlist tabs for lots of new videos coming very soon. So I will see you soon, and have a great week, guys.